Hello everybody, happy Friday. Can you believe it is already December? Oh my gosh, where has this year gone? This feels both like the longest year of my life and the fastest year of my life. I don't know what happened to 2023. It just is gone now. I swear we were just doing the New Year's. Time is time, I guess. So that also means that it's time for a monthly wrap-up. It's my first ever monthly wrap-up for November, which honestly was a lot bigger of a reading month than I kind of usually have. I saw my opportunity to just read as much as I could and I went with it. I took it and I just read a bunch. Usually my evenings are spent hanging out with my fiance because we're super long distance right now and we spend most of our nights together playing video games or just watching YouTube or whatever. He got roped into some gaming stuff with our mutual friends, so he was busy most nights and I was like, cool, you do that. I'm gonna read. I'm gonna catch up and read a whole bunch. Yeah, so let's get into it. I think that I would call this month kind of like a mid-month. I think there were more disappointments than Goodreads maybe. I don't know, I guess we'll see when we get into the stats because I'm going to pull up Storygraph here to kind of go through November's statistics. Let's see. So I've got you right in front of my monitor, so hopefully I can like read off of it while not looking like I'm looking too intensely at the monitor. But yeah, I was gonna just film this all on my computer with my OBS setup, but it was totally killing the window. Like my webcam couldn't handle the window. It was whiting it out and I was like, I need at least a little bit of this rainy candle ambiance. Like it was just a white square. I was also hoping to be able to use my Blue Yeti today, but I had to order a special connector. That'll be here tomorrow. So this should be the last video I film. It will not be the last video you see me using this little lapel mic. I still have my November reading vlog, which will be out next week, and I use that in here. But everything else going forward should be with my Blue Yeti, so hopefully there will be a lot less like popping and sudden high notes and stuff. I hate editing these things. I'm like, oh, my breathing. Oh, it's killing me. All right, well, let's get into the stats now. So this month I read 12 books. Next week's vlog will only be like 11 or something, but I snuck one in. So 12 books, 3,594 pages. That's like way more than I expected, honestly. I'm not super surprised by the moods in terms of like adventurous, but the dark is a bit new for me. This all makes sense. I only read one funny book, apparently, and one hopeful book. It's a little bit weird. So let's just scroll down the pace. Most of them were medium pace, with one fast and two slow. And page numbers, this one surprised me because I guess I didn't really realize like how many pages these books were that I was reading, where the majority of the books I read were between 300 and 500 pages, with just 4 under 300. That kind of surprised me a lot. I guess like looking back, I'm like, yeah, I did read some chonkers. And then this surprises absolutely nobody. I have read, like in my yearly wrap up, you'll see it, but this year so far I've only read 2 nonfictions. I'm just not a big nonfiction reader. I have a lot in my TBR, but I just, for one, the library never wants to give me them. I have them on hold and I guess they're in demand. And for the other, I just haven't really felt the need to go buy any yet. I will be hopefully remedying that. I might try to do like 1 nonfiction a month for next year. We'll see. But yeah, for November, all fiction, baby. And in terms of genres, fantasy running away with it as usual. Then we've got young adult and romance are tied. 2 horror books. Video games? What did I read that was even video games? I honestly have no idea. I guess I'll find out. And then this is just a holdover from Goodreads. I kind of want to figure out how to work it on Storygraph because I like to mark my books I read that are library books just to keep track of like what I'm reading that's a library book versus what I own. 2 books I read this year were owned book, or 2 books I read this month were owned books. Everything else was library books. So 10 library books, 2 owned books. Format print. I don't do audiobooks yet, and I don't get Kindle books from my library, so all print. All right, star rating. So yeah, it was an average of 3.25 this month, which just feels like such a mid-month. I had 3 4-stars, 1 5-star, a 4.25, and 3 4-stars. So I guess it isn't that bad, but then you like look down, I had a 1-star, a 1.5, a 2.5. If I go below a 3, it means I really did not like this book. Like, no. 3s are like it could be worse, I guess. And under that is like, it was worse. I do think it was kind of a mid-month for me, but I guess I did have some standouts. So I think I stayed pretty consistent, it looks like. Like I was just kind of like, I would have days where I would read a lot and then have some more settled days, but it is very consistent in that it's almost like every other day or so I was like, we're going hard, and then we'll take a break. Like just woo, woo, woo. And then at the end of the month I pushed a lot through, apparently, which I guess I did. If you watch that reading vlog, you will see at the end of the month I was like, the library says they need these back and they need these back. So yep, I really did push a lot through that month. I forgot. That was the stats. I really like Storygraphs for the stats. It took me so long to get on Storygraph, but I'm so happy I got on it and imported all of my Goodreads data onto it. All right, let's go and look at exactly what I read this month and I will tell you about them. Yeah, Cubby. Okay, Cubby's gonna join us. Oh, he really is right there. Thank you. I read Our Wives Under the Sea. I finished it on November 3rd. It was my first read of the month. I gave it 3 stars. This is by Juliette Armfield. I hear people talk about this book and they say things like it was good, but not like really great. Like it didn't realize its potential or something like that. And I would somewhat agree because I was really invested. And then around 60% or so, I kind of was like, can we just get where we're going? Like it's beautifully written and it is really gripping and really tense, but I really kind of got a little bit tired, and it's only 232 pages long, so it was such this like little guy, and for me to get exhausted in the middle of it really just kind of felt a little bit not great. So for that I rated it 3 stars. I definitely recommend it. It was such an interesting look into like relationships and what are you willing to go through with a partner who maybe has had like life-changing incidents happen and things like that. It really made me think. It went places for sure. Definitely really interesting. A very spooky way to start my November because it is horror to me. That is a horror book to me. Okay, the next book I read this on November 8th. I read Wolf Gone Wild by Juliette Cross. This is the first book in the Stay a Spell series, and I have a whole ranting video about reading this book. Like I called it a rant review, but I think it's more of like a rant vlog of me reading this book and losing my mind. So this is the book that inspired me to start this channel. This was a 2.5 star for me. Like I liked the story and I liked the idea of the world. They just kind of went a little bit like loosey-goosey with the rules of the magic and what everything entailed. And I hated the way that the characters talked. They were very quippy, super sexual. Like his wolf self is named Alpha, and I really kind of feel like that's all you need to know. So 2.5 stars. I'll have the video linked below about this one. So then I read The Ancient Magus Bride Volume 13 on November 13th. It's a manga by Yamazaki. I love this manga. I think it's super cute, but I'm in the college arc right now and I really like it. I love it. I've been reading this series throughout the year, just getting it through the library because I didn't learn until like earlier this year that the library had manga because I want to read manga, but investing in buying a whole series can be kind of expensive, especially if you don't know if you're going to like it. Each of these volumes is like $10 to $15. Ancient Magus Bride I think has 17 volumes right now, but other ones, so many. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to take advantage of my library and read this series. So I read volume 13 this month, gave it 4 stars. I don't really know what to say about it. It's a series about a young girl who is like a magical being, and her parents abandon her because she draws a lot of fairies and fae to her, and they are causing their family a lot of grief. So her parents abandon her, and she decides to sell herself at a magical creature auction or whatever, and this ancient magus purchases her just to give her freedom essentially, and also she's going to teach him how to be human-ish. Adventures ensue and they're adorable and I love them, and I read volume 13. The next volume's waiting for me at the library, so can't wait to read that one. So then on November 13th I also finished Knock Knock Open Wide by Neil Sharpson. This is what I would call a folk horror. It's set in Ireland and it deals a lot with some Celtic folklore. I think that's the term for it, Celtic folklore. It's really good. I have a vlog coming out in January where I read a bunch of horror books that I've had recommended to me through various formats. This one I found in a magazine at my library. It's really good if you like folk horror. It also has LGBTQIA representation. It's sapphic. If you like that kind of stuff, I definitely recommend checking it out. I loved this book. Yeah, I rated it 4.25 stars. I do really want to reread it because I think it would do really well with a reread. I think once I read through the first time, I zoomed through the last half of it, and now I kind of want to reread it again to really sit in the lore and figure out what was actually happening. I really liked it. If you're in the mood for folk horror, definitely pick up this one from Neil Sharpson. Then on November 16th, I finished Dungeons & Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, The Druid's Call by E.K. Johnston. This one I rated 1.5 stars. I thought it was a terribly boring slog. It took me months to finish this book. I did not like it. I didn't like it. The only reason I would suggest reading it is if you loved the D&D movie and you are just desperate for any more lore related to it, then maybe I could see it. But I did not like this book. 1.5 stars. Boring. Waste of my time. So then I read To Kill a Kingdom on November 17th. This one by Alexandra Christo. It's technically the first in the series, but I think the series is all standalones. I rated this one 4 stars. I loved this book. I've had it sitting around for so long just waiting for me to read it. I can't believe it took me this long to read it because I loved this book. It gave me everything I wanted from it. Actual enemies to actual lovers in a way that kind of makes sense. You get the angst from it. I liked the world building. It's just such a good, fun little read. It's 340 pages. It was a super quick read for me. I'm pretty sure I read it in 1 to 2 sittings. So good. Highly recommend it. Just read this if you love enemies to lovers in a fantasy setting. It's everything I wanted Bridge Kingdom to be on some level, with the like she's sent out to kill this person but they end up falling in love. Everything I wanted from that. So good. Then I read Hunt on Dark Waters. I finished this on November 21st. This is by Katee Robert. It's the first in her Crimson Sails series. 1 star. I rated this 1 star. I didn't like anything about this except the idea and the cover. The idea of the hunt, like the fae idea, I like the idea of that in pirate form. Hated everything else. The characters were terrible. The plot, what plot? This, I have to remember, is technically erotica, although Storygraph is telling me it's fiction, fantasy, romance. Don't go into this for the plot, all right? And I skipped most of the sex scenes, so I cannot vouch for whether they're good or not. I'm done trying to read Katee Robert at this point. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. So then I read These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall. I finished this on November 23rd, and this is another one that's going to be in my horror vlog. It's a young adult mystery fiction. I thought it was more horror. I think if they made this into a movie, it would be a scary movie. So for me, it is towing the line of horror, and that's why it's going to be included. I had it kind of recommended to me in like a scary vlog, and oh my god, Cubby's all tangled up. So anyways, I rated this 5 stars. I love this book. I love this book. I love this book. I love this book. If you're looking for something that gives you the Bly Manor vibes, haunted house with a sapphic love story and maybe a super emotional ending, like, yes, so good. Read this. I go more in depth in it in my vlog that'll be out in January, so I'm not going to go more in depth here, but 5-star read. I love this book. Then I read Masters of Death by Olivie Blake. My iPhone ran out of storage in the middle of whatever I was saying, so hopefully I've reframed this at least close enough, but we're almost done. My cat is sleeping on my lap. I can't believe it. It's so cute. He never does this. Okay, well now I just ruined all my framing. I finished Masters of Death by Olivie Blake on November 25th, and this book and me had a bit of a tumultuous relationship. Like, I have checked this book out from my library 3 times total. Every time they tell me I have to return it, and then I return it and they give it right back to me. It's very weird. Very weird. I finally just said this is the last time I'm checking this book out. If I don't read it, I'm never doing it again. I managed to read it in like 2 sittings, I think, and I ended up rating it 3.5 stars. I really go into why in the vlog, but I just think the author tried to do a little bit too much, or a lot too much. Way too much. I would not recommend this one unless you realize you're gonna kind of be like disappointed by the end, because they just try to do way too much. 3.5 stars for Olivie Blake. I think I might try to read the Atlas 6 series now. I've enjoyed the other things I've read by her, so I think it's time. So then I read What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This is the first book in the Secrets of the Nile series. I wish I had known it was a series when I started it. I would not have started it had I not known it was a series. I would have started it. I would not have started it if I had known it was a series. Did I say that right? I finished this on November 26th. This is another one I read in like maybe 3 sittings, and I was very unhappy with it. It keeps telling me I'm out of storage, and I know I'm not out of storage. You're lying to me, you stupid phone. I rated What the River Knows 3 stars because it's well written, it's a good story. It's not for me. I did not like this book. I didn't like it at all. This book is first in a series. I would not have read it if I'd known that, because the ending is kind of what you would expect from a first book in a series, and it is not the kind of ending that I like in books. That's as far as I'm going to go there. 3 stars. Make sure you know what you're getting into when you start it. So then I read Well Traveled by DeLuca, and I finished this on November 28th. This is the 4th book in the Well Met series, which is a contemporary romance series centering around Renaissance festivals. I rated this one 4 stars. I thought it was very cute. This was my singular book from my end of year tag that I said I wanted to finish this year, and I did it. I finished it. Check that off my list. Yeah, I rated it 4 stars. Very cute. I love the series. Highly recommend if you like any of those things. My last book that I read was Chronicles of Light. Oh, I actually have it right here. This one, Chronicles of Light, which you can see how beautiful the cover is. I love it. And this is a book from Square Enix. It is a collection of little short stories, very short stories, centering around characters in the Final Fantasy XIV universe. It has beautiful illustrations for every single story, and I didn't rate this one because how would I rate this? It's just a bunch of short stories that flesh out the world and characters a little bit more. None of it is like required reading. Here's an example of one of the illustrations. A lot of these can be found on their website for free, but there were like 4 special stories that they put into this book, so I picked it up to read it and check it out. I loved it, but I didn't rate it because why would I rate this? Oh, this is the video game one, of course. And this was sitting on my in the middle of reading list. It's been there for like 2 years. I finally finished it, so that's good. So yeah, that was my final read of the year, or of the month, not of the year. There were some high highs and low lows and a whole lot in the middle. I think it was a pretty decent month overall for reading. I explored a lot of genres you wouldn't normally see me in, like the Secrets of the Nile. I don't normally read like murder mysteries, but I really want to, so I'm glad I expanded even if I didn't like that book. It was a bad time for me, and I read a lot of horror and just different genres, so I think it was a really interesting month for me. Lots of things I would recommend, which is always good. I hope you guys had a really good November. Let me know down below what you read this November that was either really good or really bad. Did you have a good reading month in November? And are you looking forward to December? Because I'm excited. I'm going to pick up some Christmas romances to read, and I have a lot of other things on my TBR from my library, so I'm excited to have what will hopefully be another productive month. And I'm excited to make a vlog about it because you should see my November calendar. I will put it right here. Everything purple is something Christmassy that I have planned with family members. It's gonna be crazy, so I'm gonna be super busy, hence why I'm pre-filming this. Well, this I'm only pre-filming a day before, but I'm pre-filming all of December this weekend. I'm stressed, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into my November wrap-up. I hope you guys had a wonderful November and that you have an awesome December planned. I look forward to hearing about everybody's reading wrap-ups and plans, hopefully in the comments, but also I'll be checking out other people's videos and everything. So thank you again. Please like and subscribe. I am a new booktuber channel, so I appreciate every little comment, every little like, all that jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!